What is going on, guys? I hope you guys are having a great day. Let's go ahead and get straight into it. Modern sealed investing. Why is this something that I'm seeing more and more pop up in my YouTube feed? I'm seeing everybody talking about invest in this, buy now. You have to get this before it's too late. And a lot of it just feels like sales tactics to me. It feels like people are trying to sell me on something. And I don't necessarily understand what some of the motive is there. Maybe it's just got to get my content out, got to get my content to grab people in. And I understand what that's like. Starting a channel from scratch, I understand what it's like to try to get people to really grab onto your content. But it did get me thinking, why is that everyone suddenly talking about sword and shield, this and that, you have to buy this, investment videos, just it's over and over and over again to the point where I can't ignore it. And so I'm thinking, okay, if this is relevant, is there something building up here? Are people just trying to validate their purchases here, or is there something building? And I thought, okay, well, maybe I'll talk about, my, not strategy, not, necessarily game plan, but just how I've gone about collecting modern Pokemon products. So coming back into the hobby, I've kind of wanted to have everything, right? So I've gone after everything in vintage and modern, and I'm really trying to catch them all, so to speak. But with modern, when I got back into modern, I knew that I wanted to have one booster box of every single set. Now, investing in modern sealed product, I think, is very boring and very, it's just not engaging. It feels very desensitized. I'm just buying up product, putting it in the closet, and I'm going to be rich someday. Now, you have to have either a lot of product, a lot of storage, a lot of money, and a lot of time to wait on all of these products to actually feel like some form of investment, right? And in that time, a lot can happen. Fads can go in and out, but I do personally believe that in the long term, these products are going to do well because they will become more scarce as more people open them, trying to pull, the chase cards, going after the Moonbreon, which kind of defined the Sword and Shield era. I think these products are going to go down in supply, and even though they were heavily printed from 2021, moving up, it's just been more and more getting printed. I think that they're still going to rise in value, but I think it's going to be very slow and steady, considering the fact that pre-Sword and Shield Sun and Moon booster boxes were being printed a lot less and have showed a lot more growth in the same time period that Sword and Shield boxes have been out. And honestly, I'm not all that impressed about it. There are so many plays that you can make in this hobby right now, whether you're trying to buy, sell, trade, collect stuff that you want to see, appreciate in value. There's so many plays you can make. I just think that Pokemon modern sealed investing it's been overplayed. It's been beaten to a pulp as a topic. And it's really hard to take that and be creative with it. And the only thing for me that I can think is, how did I get into modern sealed investing and buying these products? And what is driving me to get more, right? So it's very difficult for me to want to buy more and more modern sealed product. The reason for that being is because I like to really collect, specific cards. So I've got some of my favorite cards behind me. I'm going after first edition base set, trying to complete that. I still have to work on my old EX sets. I'm literally trying to master tons of vintage sets while also going after Grail vintage cards, while also trying to go after some modern Grail cards, some of which I consider Sun and Moon Team Up, the Gengar Mimikyu, the Latios. I just got the Tyranitar recently at Regionals, so that was really cool. The Umbreon from Evolving Skies, the Dragonite from Evolving Skies, the Rayquaza from Evolving Skies, even though the Dragonite is not doing nearly as well as I would think that it would do. But there are a lot of cards in Modern, the Blaziken from Chilling Reign, Giratina from Lost Origin, the Machamp from Astral Radiance. There are so many incredible alternate art cards. And Fusion Strike really should be doing a lot better considering the fact that you've got Gengar VMAX, Mew V, Mew VMAX, Espeon VMAX, Celebi. You've got 5 banger cards in Fusion Strike. But this is all to say that I really like some of the cards. And also with Modern, I wanted to master set Modern, so I have all of my binders also equally taking up a lot of space. So, you know, to achieve kind of these investment goals, I feel like you really have to accumulate a lot of stuff. And for me, that's very difficult because I also like to collect what I like to collect with these master sets, with theme decks, with, you know, vintage cards. It's very hard to do all of that and do modern sealed investing at the same time. But I am definitely one of those people that firmly believes that modern sealed investments can work and it can be an alternative investment. But here are kind of my thoughts when it comes to Sword and Shield. Rebel Clash and Sword and Shield base, I think, are primarily doing well because that was before Pokemon started ramping things up. Because it really doesn't make sense to me why they're even doing the numbers that they're doing. I don't think that they're good sets, and I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole right now. But I wouldn't even really touch them. The only reason I would buy them is so I have one of every Sword and Shield booster box in the Sword and Shield era. And the only one I'm missing is still Rebel Clash. And I really don't want to spend $200 on a Rebel Clash booster box that really like is just for completion goals and less for what's in here. Would I really genuinely like this set? This is the same reason that I recently sold XY Evolution's booster box. I did need the money for some other ventures that will be revealed down the road. But I just realized that what was in the set really wasn't all that great. And although I really want to go after XY booster boxes someday and Sun and Moon booster boxes someday, the prices almost don't make sense. And that's starting to happen in Sword and Shield. This is why I think people should maybe... I understand that Sword and Shield could move soon, and so that's a great time to make an investment, a play, stockpile some Modern, but you're also still kind of buying at these new highs that have been created. And, you know, it does feel a little bit risky when there's Scarlet Violet, and although it's been printed to oblivion, Scarlet Violet, you can get those booster boxes for a much better cost basis than Sword and Shield. Even though, again, you're probably going to have a even longer time horizon that you're going to be waiting for that investment with Scarlet and Violet, because it is so fresh, it is so new, everybody can get it, everyone can get their hands on it. It's not really valuable right now. Now, I do think that that's going to change as well, especially with 151. I personally believe 151 is really bolstering up Scarlet and Violet. But in terms of Sword and Shield, I look back and, it's like picking the right stock, right? Like, how did we not all know that Evolving Skies was going to be amazing? And I've since replaced where my Evolutions box is with Evolving Skies, because Evolving Skies is a set that, despite the ridiculous price point right now, I always liked Evolving Skies. I always thought Evolving Skies was going to do well. And that's why in the very beginning, when I really knew nothing about collecting or investing or just buying stuff that I liked, Evolving Skies was one of the front runners. It was the most expensive box at the time. I think it was around 140, 150 when I was looking at it, which is still above what you could probably get it for 120, 130 right after it came out. You could probably stockpile a lot of it. But where it's at now doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me to buy. But I look back and wonder, I bought a lot of it because I liked the set, and I was like, this set's going to do really well. This set has the chances to really skyrocket. And most of that is really just what I observed from vintage and what happened with vintage sets and how expensive vintage products have gotten now. Totally different story. And we're going to talk about vintage in a totally different video. Because I do want to pay tribute to vintage, which is really my first love coming back into this hobby. All about vintage. I really could care less about modern until I kind of got most of my vintage goals and said, Ryan, you're here while the craze is going on. You better get into some Sword and Shield before it's too late. And I'm glad that I did make that decision, because I can always come back to vintage. A lot of the stuff on vintage has kind of hit peaks, even though We're going to talk about that because I still think the vintage market is pure gold. I've said that a year ago. I'll say it again this year. The market is gold. There are plays to be made everywhere, and they are a lot quicker than waiting on modern sealed product. But getting into modern sealed product and Sword and Shield booster boxes, one thing that I think it's important to say with Sword and Shield, Sun and Moon, I really don't care how good the special sets are. Even 151, unfortunately, is a special set here in the US, and I collect majority English sets. I do have some Japanese products. I do have Japanese vintage cards, but I mainly collect English. And it's a bummer for me because I've been touting 151 all year, and I still love the set. For me, the investment probably is in these sealed booster bundle cases. I think that those look very aesthetically pleasing and they feel good in your arms, and they're semi-easy to ship. And I like the design of it. They look good. But I will say for the most part, all these special sets that don't have a product like that, which most of them will not, Paldean Fates does not, or at least not yet that I know of. But most of these special sets are ETBs, boxes, special boxes, UPCs. And what I've come to realize is from opening all these UPCs and seeing just how much space they're taking up in my back wall, these special sets will always, in my opinion, underperform main sets. I know that's not necessarily the case with Hidden Fates, but I still believe that in the long term, a lot of special sets just are not going to do well. And remember, Hidden Fates, different printing era, different, supply and demand dilemma. Hidden Fates it's had a lot of time on its side to appreciate, okay? We're seeing that it's not working out with Crown Zenith, and Crown Zenith will appreciate at some point. I have a ton of Crown Zenith, so I think I'm a little qualified to say what's going on here with these special sets. They're really not doing all that great, and you have to know, just like with Evolving Skies, with all those amazing alternate arts and all the possibilities in Evolving Skies, we all should have known better. We all should have known that, this is the one, ding, 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 but a lot of us, I think we're trying to diversify and buy a little of everything. I was too. A little bit of, Darkness Ablaze, Vivid Voltage, even though those aren't the best, especially Darkness Ablaze with the limited pulls you can get out of Darkness Ablaze. Chilling Rain, Fusion Strike, Astral Radiance, Lost Origin, Silver Tempest, Brilliant Stars. Yes, they're all great, but even at the $200 mark, Evolving Skies was still superior to all of these other sets. And how we didn't know that, I mean, of course there's people out there who did accumulate a ton of Evolving Skies, so they did know. It's the same reason I'm buying a lot of Sam's Club when they were out, the exclusive heavy hitters boxes with the 2 packs of Evolving Skies, because I know I'm not going to be ripping any boxes at $500, and I know that at that price point, or $470, let's say, at that price point, broken down by 36, that's $13 a pack. I literally cannot comprehend how that set, so recent, feels like yesterday Evolving Skies came out, is $13 a pack. Anyways, all that to say that it's amazing that we're still kind of unable to time these things and pick these sets right. We kind of diversify. The reason everyone's talking about all these Sword and Shield sets is because really, we all know about Evolving Skies, okay? We don't need to talk about Evolving Skies anymore. We know that Evolving Skies is doing really well. We will see updates on that, maybe when we see a decent price movement, okay, Evolving Skies is now on average selling for $550, $600. That is a decent update. That gives us some information, but most of us know that Evolving Skies is around that $500 mark, and it's not moving much, which begs you to, wonder, is it still a good investment there, or is it just, it's reached a point where it's not very investable because it's so expensive. It is really a luxury now that people may buy 1 or 2 boxes, one to open, one to keep sealed. It's really an investment piece in just itself as one box. But there are all these other sets that I just mentioned from Sword and Shield that you can buy in the $150 range, and they are still a lot of growth presented there that's possible. It almost makes me think, in a short time period, with how Evolving Skies has performed, is there going to be a cap of 300 or 400 on these other sets? They're going to hit 500, but by the time they hit 500, Evolving Skies should at least be around 800, 900, 1,000. When you're looking at the fundamentals of Evolving Skies is over twice the cost of a lot of these sets, that's what's giving me that rationale. But it's amazing to me because I'm still looking at Evolving Skies and just thinking, how did I not know? How did I not know that this set was going to be so investable? You know, the thing is, you never really know, but you could take a pretty good guess based on tallying up all of the alt art values that are in a set that, hey, this is the set to be investing a lot in. And I think for me, I still get that same vibe with 151. It's the only set in Scarlet and Violet that I think I'm going to get that vibe for. That why do I feel like we don't know that this is going to be the best performing set of Scarlet and Violet? Once Scarlet and Violet era ends, even before it ends, I think we could start seeing an increase in price. But at the same time, they did a massive reprint of 151. They're printing more cards than ever. Some people don't care about hashing out OG Pokemon over and over again. So maybe I'll be wrong on that. I'm still, standing my ground that I think 151 is going to be the best performer of Scarlet and Violet by far. The only thing that I think that would hurt it, which will hurt every special set in comparison to their booster box counterparts, is the fact that they don't have a booster box. I really wish with special sets we could still get booster boxes, but maybe they trim down the amount of alternate art cards. It's an easier set for people to master, so to speak. It's easier to go through. No, it's just another product that we feel inclined to buy, that gets us excited, that doesn't come out in standard booster boxes, so it's not as appealing to invest in. And at the same time, going through ETB after ETB really can start to add up and hurt you, and it's just wasteful. There's tons of product everywhere. But that's just my little rant on specialty products. But with the rest of these Sword and Shield boxes, I feel like it's a pretty good time right now. I feel like now, maybe it's just all the thumbnails that I've seen, but I gotta agree with a lot of these thumbnails. There's a reason, right, that all of these videos are starting to look, I haven't watched them, but I'm guessing based on the thumbnail, that they want you to click on it. They want you to be thinking, this is the time to buy this stuff now. And, I'm not in total disagreement with them, right? I'm extremely bullish on Pokemon Modern Sealed product, and I do think that a lot of people are like, oh, we've been talking about investments and Pokemon Sealed product. It's so boring. It is! I agree with you. It's absolutely dull. Having a closet stacked up of sealed boxes of cards, it is not very fun to collect that way, first off. And it's very interesting. The numbers are very interesting. So if you like the numbers and you think of it like a stock, it is very interesting to see how these things perform, especially given the risk, in other investments that you could make. Especially in collectibles. Pokemon seems like it's one of the safer ones. Seems like it's a little bit protected from these swings and volatility and going out of style. It just seems like a very popular franchise. And I could definitely see that when I was at regionals. The place was absolutely packed out. I just joined a Facebook group, Verbank Trading and Buying is a private Facebook group, because I'm realizing that private buying and selling is probably another avenue that could be very lucrative for both modern product and vintage. But there's like 50,000 people in that group. And I just thought, there's a lot of people in this group. There's a lot of people actively buying, selling, trading this stuff. And I think when I see all these thumbnails and I see all these people talking about, Sword and Shield, now's the time for Sword and Shield. What I'm seeing is a trend here. We're seeing a lot of people get into this. And I do wonder, are they just rationalizing again? Are they rationalizing stuff that they bought, the ETB collection that they have, the singles that they're buying? Are they saying that, I was right about this? Is it for clicks? Is it for ad revenue? What exactly is the motive behind putting the same content out over and over again? I'm not going to lie, that's something that I think about. But one thing that's undeniable is that they are all doing it. That we're seeing a lot of that content come up over and over again. And it's a good indicator of where the hobby is and what people are thinking. Something that I've thought about is I need to practice what I preach. So if I'm going to start talking about Sword and Shield investments in booster boxes, I should consider, would I buy Brilliant Stars right now at $150 a box? I've got a lot of things to pay for. I have massive collection goals, but it is definitely something that I'm still considering is like, oh, it's so boring. The time horizon could be abysmal. It could take years to actually get a decent return. And guys, do not discount seller fees on platforms unless you're going to sell privately and you want to take that risk doing your thing privately, not getting screwed over by someone privately. There's that too. You know, I'm starting to take that risk myself, but that really goes more into buying. But is selling, you've got shipping, you've got your platform fees, you're going to list this stuff. If you want to have a store that looks good, there are all these costs associated with selling, and you have to have really good margins for this to work out. I think that if you are going to invest in the product, there's way less risk. There's way less risk probably in Sword and Shield. But the cost basis is so much better with Scarlet and Violet. Now, they're not too far off right now. They're not too far off cost-wise. Well, you know, unless you can find Scarlet and Violet products, Scarlet and Violet base, you know, booster boxes for the $90, $100 price point, okay? If you can find boxes for that price point and it's legit, and it's from a legit seller, somebody that you can trust, then it's really hard for me to tell you that it's not a good play to go into Scarlet and Violet. It's really hard for me to not tell you that when the same booster boxes could be $150, $160, which after fees, after shipping costs, you're still able to make something on that. Now, is it worth it for you to have these boxes sitting somewhere, taking up space? You know, storage is an issue, weight is an issue, moving stuff around, getting to it. I literally can't even get to the booster boxes I wanted to hold up for the thumbnail. I couldn't even get to them because there's just too much stuff piled on top of each other. It's getting heavy. And you're really not going to have that problem with like individual cards and slabs. So while we talk about sealed investing a lot, there are just as many plays out there waiting to be found. You know, vintage, modern, there's stuff out there every day selling that you can use for flipping cards. It doesn't have to be, you know, black and white. It doesn't have to be one versus the other. There are so many opportunities in this hobby, but it is a phenomenon right now, the sealed market investment videos that we're seeing, and it makes me feel like we're extremely bullish right now. Either that or people are buying into it and they're praying to God that it doesn't dip even lower, because this is the chart we're seeing for a lot of Sword and Shield stuff. It's kind of, it dipped down a good bit after the pandemic, and now it's, you know, it looks like it's about to start heading up again. Some boxes are now selling for more than they were last month. So Brilliant Stars is a great example of that. And I love Brilliant Stars, but even Brilliant Stars, for me, there's a lot of great cards in that set, but really, and I'm a Charizard fanboy, the Charizard seems like it's one of the only really decent cards in that set that people are going to go after. And so to me, Brilliant Stars, other than having a Charizard in it, that is chef's kiss. The Charizard in Brilliant Stars is a chef's kiss alternate art. But other than that, you know, I don't see a lot of crazy value. So if we're going to take what we learned from Evolving Skies, say, okay, well, we should have known better. Okay, so then what else, Orion? What are we going to do then? What's the next frontier? Fusion Strike, which, you know, I didn't fully agree on this until I've really thought about the alternate arts and how good the alternate arts are. Fusion Strike is up there right now. Even Chilling Reign and Fusion Strike, both underdogs that are now doing very well, but Chilling Strike and Chilling Strike, it should just be called Chilling Strike, right? Chilling Reign and Fusion Strike are both underdogs with some really good heavy hitters in there. They deserve the value that they have currently. Could they be at a good price point to buy still? In my opinion, yes, they could. Those are two that you should look at. Astral Radiance has a lot of mid-tier level stuff, but you still have to take all of those cards and kind of combine them. You know, the Dialga, the Palkia, the Machamp. There's just three off the top of my head. I know there's a lot of good ones in there. Those are just 3 off the top of my head that I know are really good in Astral Radiance. Oh, the Beedrill alternate art, Beedrill V alternate art, absolutely incredible. You know, you combine those together. Okay, so Chilling Reign with the alt arts. Okay, 150, I can see that. Fusion Strike alt arts, 150, easily I can see that. The Gengar is $200, okay? At the very least. $200 for the Gengar. Espeon's another $100. Mew VMAX, another, $50 to $90. I don't know off the top of my head. Mew V, $30. You've got easily $300 in Fusion Strike, in the alt arts, in that value, okay? Fusion Strike is a great one to go with. I think Fusion Strike probably, I've always known that Fusion Strike had potential, but for me it was more about the design and the fact that it had Mew. Okay, I really like the pink design of Fusion Strike. I think it looks absolutely phenomenal. Like, just over here, and I like Fusion Strike so much, I have the display in my room, but like, just take a look at these colors. I mean, they're absolutely phenomenal, and I'm not even a fan, really, of the Gengar, but I really like the Mew VMAX, and I like the Mew V. The Mew V is absolutely, again, chef's kiss. It's beautiful. But other than, Fusion Strike, which I love that set, and Astral Radiance, which is pretty good value. Again, you have the Misty's, Starmie. You have the Starmie with Misty. That's absolutely phenomenal card. Love the texture on that card. Or is that? I think that's Astral. Yeah, I believe that's Astral. But you've got a lot of good cards in Astral too. And then we look at Lost Origin, which Lost Origin has the Giratina. And the Giratina is still trending at a very high price. You've got the Aerodactyl, you've got the Pikachu VMAX, you've got the Pikachu V. 4 off the top of my head that I can say are very good in Lost Origin. And honestly, I don't know why I didn't like Lost Origin to begin with. I got a case for just over $500 after it came out. There was tons of it everywhere. And I even had second thoughts on that, but I just said, you know what? I'm putting my money where my mouth is. I'm buying modern product. And I try and diversify with every set, also because I want to open every set. I want to master every set. So for me, there's a little bit of a different motive than just, what do you want to perform the best? What do you want to make the most money? What do you want that you can tell your friends, I've been investing in modern product and doing very well in my modern product portfolio. I don't know why I'm doing this with my hands. Rock on, dude. If you're just looking for specific sets, I feel like Lost Origin, it's either Lost Origin or Fusion Strike. They're both, in my opinion, they're neck and neck. They're both really good. The Giratina has grown on me immensely. I did not care for the Giratina when that set came out. People were going crazy for Giratina when that set came out. I don't know why, but until I had that card in person, it just wasn't on my radar. Kind of like Paldean Fates with this Charizard. The Charizard's not really even a blip on my radar. It's all about the Gardevoir. But the Gardevoir is so cheap, like Paldean Fates prices are dumping. So I'm like, why did I even buy a case of this? Well, I realized that I have so many different goals, and that, if you're like me and you have different goals, then it's good to just diversify and have a little fun with every single set, especially if you're going to be building out like kind of a binder or a rough master set like I am. Like, I would call them, all of my binders are like mostly rough drafts of master sets. Some of them are getting very close. Evolving Skies, I'm like 20 cards left in Evolving Skies, very close to finishing that, and that is a massive set. And that's mainly, a couple alt arts, but mainly full arts and hyper rares that I'm missing from Evolving Skies. So Evolving Skies, most of the bangers I've gotten out of the way, but I love that. I love like completing some of these sets. But then Paradox Rift, didn't really like that set that much, but gave it a chance. Ended up buying the Roaring Moon. I'll probably do the same thing with Paldean Fates. But I got a case of ETBs, because if that set slowly trickles up in the future, then I'll have some basic ETBs that I can kind of offset my costs with, or even better, on the channel when the set is, kind of forgotten after a while and people are like, oh, that was a fun set. Maybe it'll be a set that I can open up again. It's not necessarily all about the investment side of it, because for me, especially with the special sets, if Crown Zenith wasn't so heavily opened, I'd probably want to open up some Crown Zenith, but I'm just like, you know what? I have to wait until a couple years go by for Crown Zenith to really work out its thing, and the fact that so many people graded the crap out of that set. The sealed aspect is so interesting in Pokemon because it can trump all of the single investments of, buying singles, grading them, trying to flip them. Crown Zenith singles will be sitting on the market because there's so many of them graded. Unless you're willing to give someone a bargain right now, that is a waiting game. You're going to have to wait that out. But Crown Zenith sealed, I feel like is going to go up much better and be a much safer investment. So for people wanting to collect Pokemon, buy a couple slabs or buy a couple cheap raw cards they like, but then, they want it to be sustainable. Maybe every year or every other year they sell one of their sealed booster boxes for a gain. Sealed investing is set it and forget it. It's boring, it's easy, and it's likely to work out in the long term. That's why I think a lot of people love it. That's why I think a lot of people are making content on it, because it's kind of becoming a no-brainer thing. And people are still having to pound it in that, this does work, guys. It's very interesting to me because everyone can be saying that something, too many people are going to be buying sealed product. Too many people are going to think that this is going to be their golden ticket. There's so many people bearish, I think, on trying this out that they're not willing to even take the risk. When it's probably the other way around, that because people are so afraid of the risk of this and trying it, there are few people that have a closet stacked full of booster boxes from Sword and Shield, right? There are, other than the hardcore collectors, the people that have seen it all and know that we're going to see it all again. At some point, there's going to be some kind of boom again. Might be in 5 years, might be in 10 years. Some product, some game, some set, something will come out and reignite that flame. That's probably going to happen. I don't have a crystal ball, but I can make an educated guess that what we're seeing is patterns repeating themselves, trends repeating themselves. But it's not really exciting. But if you were just looking for what's the next set that I can get in on, I'd say probably Fusion Strike or Lost Origin. Silver Tempest is great with the Lugia, but again, if off the top of my head, and I've been collecting now for quite some time, but if off the top of my head, and I experienced all these sets, if off the top of my head I can't think of much in a set, that tells me a lot about that set. For me, Fusion Strike and Lost Origin seem like they are the next contenders. And I'd say Fusion Strike is a better buy because it is an older set. So it's closer towards the beginning of Sword and Shield. So I'd say Fusion Strike is probably pretty good. I haven't talked about battle styles. There is the Tyranitar, but unfortunately the Tyranitar is pretty much the highest value there. Or at least I assume that the Tyranitar is the highest value there. I didn't do much with battle styles. But it's not enough for me. It's not enough for me to recommend that. Same with Vivid Voltage. There's the Fat Pika, which is phenomenal to me. But again, I know a lot of people are going to say Orion Vivid Voltage is not a good set to recommend. And so I'm trying to think of this very simply. What pops in my head when I think about these sets? And the ones that multiple cards pop into my head and they're good and their value is strong, that's a set that I can rationalize. Okay, all those cards together, pulling a potential of any of those in this set kind of makes it worthwhile. And I really think that having a really high value alternate art in a set can define that set. With Evolving Skies, there are so many alt arts, so it's really hard to say what define that set's value because there's so much in there that it's likely just the multitude of options you have when you're opening a box, even though the pull rates are still quite terrible. But you've got the Umbreon, which is really right now, I think it might be settled around the upper threes, maybe low 400s for a raw copy. You can probably find a raw copy at trade events, online, doing private deals. On eBay, probably more around $500. But, I think that card right now is setting the tone for what Evolving Skies is doing. I don't feel like it's necessarily that everything is in there. I just feel like it's that they want this guy right here, the Umbreon. That's what they want the most out of that set. Super hard to pull. Everyone wants to go after the chase. And then, additionally, because this video is going longer than I had intended, I thought it was going to be a 15-minute short rant, but I love a good rant. I think the reason people love sealed Pokemon investing is I think it's also about like having teams. And bear with me here, okay? I know this is a hot take, but I think it's kind of like having sports teams. You're betting on your team, you're gambling too, you're investing too, but you're betting on your team necessarily. And I think for people early on that were like, we all know Evolving Skies is great, but did you buy multiple cases when you knew that the upside was probably going to be there? We hadn't seen anything like the pandemic before. It was really tough to say that Evolving Skies was going to do that. So I think maybe I should give myself a little more credit than being so hard on myself and saying, you idiot, why didn't you know this set was going to do numbers? For all we knew, Evolving Skies could be $225 a box right now, and you could still readily get your hands on it. And if it was $225 a box, it would show a very steady, increase in value throughout all of these Sword and Shield boxes. But it's not. It's $500 roughly a box. So clearly, something crazy happened there. But I think it's a tool that we can use in the future for, gauging these sets. Team Up is a great example. Again, Gengar Mimikyu, Latios Latias GX, the Heart Latios Latias, like that card, in my opinion, that's a $1,500 card. That card, in my opinion, well, I guess around a PSA 10, which you probably can't find at that price, but, probably closer to $2,000 now. Which is the same price the box. I just find it very interesting that you can define a box's value by just one of the chase cards in that box. And right there, everyone has their own strategy or formula or a way to value stuff. And I'd like to actually create a formula for giving a percentage of each of the kind of chase cards and compiling that and getting a number that works with every single set. That way I can give people the most accurate information without shooting out ideas. That's one thing that can be very detrimental to this hobby. And I'm starting to take a little bit more seriously now that when you're putting out information for sets for people that they should put their money in, we got to be realistic about this. Is it worth having your money tied up in these sets for that long? Are you willing to buy cases of product to actually make a decent enough margin after selling all this stuff? Are you willing to tie up that kind of money and then have it sitting in a physical, uninsured, placement in your home or in storage or something? And then you have to be careful about your storage too. And I've talked about this before. If it's in your attic, you have to be careful. If it's in your house and you don't have a, dehumidifier or a way to keep the temperature very consistent, these are paper products. So you got to be very careful with all this stuff, right? And you have to take all this stuff into account. But what I am seeing right now, guys, quiet, stop it. You always do this. At the end of every video, you guys do this. Jeez. What I am seeing is more and more people being bullish on modern sealed product. And I do think that's a really good indicator, guys. I have a lot of money wrapped up in modern sealed product. And when I say a lot, I mean, probably a couple $1,000s. But to me, that's a lot of money in modern Pokemon products, right? It's insanity, really. But, I do believe in it, and I've immersed my whole life kind of into Pokemon. So I feel fairly qualified at this point to talk about this stuff. But we're talking about archival paper products, right? One thing that I don't know if you guys have thought about, that I have thought about, because I literally have thought, like, am I really willing, like, how bullish are all of us? Are we all holding till the very end, right? Like, so are we willing to have these products for 80 years, right? Like, and like, of course not, Orion, no. People are going to sell a lot of this stuff 10, 20 years down the line, which is why it's interesting talking about investments, because investments typically insinuate that you're going to have this stuff long term. You guys, it's going to be very hard to say that we're going to have serious gains with very little product on hand in a 5 to 10 year period. It's very hard to say that with how much product could be out there. And if people's theories, their bearish theories are right on, well, everybody's doing this, that's why it's probably not going to work. I just don't know. I forgot to, dang it, I forgot to put it in cinematic mode. Oh well. But another thing is just like, how long are Pokemon cards actually going to last and hold together? And that might sound silly, but it's something that I actually take really seriously, because if we're all investing in something just to flip it down the road, and I wish, I hope somebody will comment on here and say, if they know about, creating Pokemon products and how long these trading cards could last. I know we have baseball cards that are 100 years old or near that. So I know that archival paper products can last long, but with the quality of how they're creating these products, I wonder how long this stuff will last and where the hobby will even be, in 80 years. But, I think people worry, especially with what happened with MetaZoo, and I know they're very different categories and very different franchises, but I think a lot of people think, well, how long can it last? And I think it's much easier when you have, a YouTube to pump this stuff and talk about it, as well as make entertainment and open it in the moment. That's all fine. But when I think about, the next 20, 30 years, I think Pokemon will still be around. But I know for a fact that my bar will still be around. Well, actually, I don't know that. If we sell the business, who knows? But, traditional incomes and businesses and investment opportunities and strategies, they're always going to be around. The stock market's probably always going to be around. So, there are alternative investments that you can make that you don't have to feel this pressure of like, I got to get in now. I got to buy a modern sealed product now. This is something that I recommend if you truly enjoy the hobby and you don't want to take too big of risks with buying products and buying single cards that could be massively graded, and then the populations go up and then the value goes down. If you don't want to be bothered with, those kinds of decisions, that's why I think people love the idea of modern sealed product right now, because I think they don't want to have to make those hard decisions. And this is a way where, oh yeah, I've got all of these sets. I bought a ton of Scarlet and Violet. I bought a ton of this, a ton of that. This is a way for people to be collectors and be immersed in the hobby while also being investors, while also, experiencing what's going to happen with these numbers. I think for me, that's the important part. That's why I like to talk about, modern sealed investments doing well, because I want to see those numbers. I want to see if I was right. I want to see if I was wrong. I want to see how they're going to perform. And for the last couple of weeks, I felt like maybe it's just stagnant. Maybe the modern sealed market is going to be stagnant. The bigger hitters, the bigger hitter sets are going to do well. Maybe Fusion Strike and Chilling Reign were printed a little bit less than the sets following, and that's why Fusion Strike and Chilling Reign, that's why they're doing a lot better. And all of these auxiliary products, I'm seeing Silver Tempest, Brilliant Stars, Astral Radiance, Lost Origin. I'm not seeing as much of Fusion Strike, Chilling Reign. Now, Heavy Hitters is a bad example because it's got a little bit of everything. And that's why I love those boxes, even though they feel very gimmicky. But I've pulled alt arts from them. I know they're legitimate. And I wanted to open one up for today's video. But I feel like you guys were long overdue for a nice rant. And it seems like everybody and their mother is talking about modern sealed products. So this was kind of my take on it. What's the next big set? And if you are trying to get a little bit of everything, are people trying to get in on this now because the prices are going to move again? Like, are we about to leave a stagnant, sideways price movement into a more exponential logistical price growth? What's going to happen? No one really knows. I think Fusion Strike and Lost Origin are probably my two top picks, based on the value that's in there. And I would urge you guys to do your own due diligence, do your own information, and also invest in your favorite team. As I talked about before, it feels like you're rooting for your favorite team. Oh no, this set's going to do better than that set because this set has Lugia, and that set's going to do better than the other sets because it's the only set with a beautiful Charizard alternate art. Again, a reason why Brilliant Stars may end up trumping a lot of these other sets, just because people love Charizard. It's an iconic Pokemon, and it was kind of an undervalued single that could rise. Kind of Charizards from the beginning of the inception of Pokemon have always been, they're everywhere, they're abundant, yet they are not the rarest, but they are the most expensive cards, notably, most of the time in these sets. So a lot of good stuff to think about, but let me know, guys, if you kind of like, can relate with the idea of like picking your team, like this is my favorite set. This set's going to do really well because it's got these Pokemon and I love these Pokemon. I think a lot of it is that too, and people aren't, that's why it's kind of hard to figure it out, because people need to understand what the most popular Pokemon are, who are, what sets are going to have the most popular Pokemon and be the fan favorites that do so well in the future. That could dictate a lot. And, Silver Tempest has Lugia, Brilliant Stars, Charizard. Those are the heavy hitters in that set. Crown Zenith has a lot, but I feel like it's just been watered down by so much printing. Didn't see that coming. Evolving Skies has too many great choices to choose from. Lost Origin does have the Giratina, which is kind of your legendary, and it's priced much higher than the Charizard and the Lugia. So either the Giratina is going to correct downwards, or the Giratina is going to start moving upwards soon, and as will Lost Origin. And then with Fusion Strike, the Espeon VMAX and the Gengar VMAX are so good. And then I almost always forget, even though it's plastered on the front of that set and those packs, the Mew VMAX and the Mew V, both beautiful, awesome looking cards, especially the Mew V. I think a lot of us have that same thought process that the V alternate arts look amazing. Sometimes better than the VMAX counterparts. Anyways, guys, that's my rant on modern sealed product. I think it's probably as good as time as any to invest in Sword and Shield, but we just don't know for sure yet. It'll be interesting to see what happens. But this is interesting to think about. If you invested now, your time horizon could be fairly short for it to start moving up in value, right? It's not like when people bought the set at its inception and then had to wait for things to move along forward. Now we're at a point where it could be strategic to buy these sets because they're about to start moving and popping off. So, and with Scarlet and Violet, we don't know when that's going to happen for a lot of those sets, but we know that the price is pretty affordable right now, more affordable than Sword and Shield prices, and that's something to think about. But again, you have to think about all the printing done by Pokemon, that could bring values down for Scarlet and Violet and bring more value to Sword and Shield. But anyways, let me know what you think, guys. This is a broad ranting topic, and hopefully you guys enjoyed. Peace.